Hello, this is Kathy with Duality Unfolding. Welcome back to my channel. This week, what I have for you is a reading on which soul contracts are ready to be released. So, if you are not familiar with soul contracts, they can be work that we have decided to do in this lifetime. When we incarnated here, it can be work that we have been trying to complete over the course of multiple lifetimes. If you believe in reincarnation. If you don't really believe in either of those, these can just kind of be really big life lessons, situations that we find ourselves in. I think everybody universally experiences big change in their life, that can look like, graduating from, high school or college, or getting married, or becoming a parent, or, having your kids move out of the home and being an empty nester. It can be like a change in your career, moving. So anything really big and significant, we are going to look at those things specifically in the terms of a soul contract. So I'm going to look at one big soul contract. Ben agrees. And then I'm going to look at one small soul contract. So you're going to see two different contracts or life situations come up. And then we will look at the lesson that you learned, or that you're being asked to learn from this soul contract, the timing as far as maybe how long it's going to take for you to release that, or maybe a season that the release is going to happen. And then we will look at some guides that are supporting you as you're going through this release process. So I have 4 different groups for you to choose from. And group number 1, your choosing card is failure. I understand that a mistake is only an opportunity to learn. Group number 2, your choosing card is forgiveness. I acknowledge that harboring resentment blocks the flow of love. Group number 3, your choosing card is abundance. I am a limitless being and I can manifest whatever I desire in this physical reality. Group number 4, your choosing card is friendship. I understand that a friend is in my life for a reason. So these are the 4 options that you have to choose from. So take all the time that you need. Timestamps are below, and I will see you in the readings. Hello, group number 1. So if you chose this failure card, this is your reading. So as I mentioned in the intro, we are going to look at so many cards. We are going to look at one major soul contract as well as a clarifying card, and then the lessons that you're learning and a timeline. And then I have the same thing for the kind of smaller soul contract, as well as some oracle cards for guides, ancestors, light beings that are there supporting you. So let's look at your bigger, more significant soul contract that you are ready to release. Okay, so we have Queen of Cups in the reverse. And this Queen of Cups upright. Queen of Cups in the upright is very nurturing. She's very caring for others, very much like this mother energy. In the reverse, this card speaks of us needing to turn that loving energy inward. So this is a card, when we see Queen of Cups in the reverse, it's talking about self-care, that there needs to be a balance between how much we give to others and how much care we are giving to ourselves. So it feels like the big soul contract that you are ready to release, or the big lesson that you're ready to release, is around learning how to really be of care to yourself and balancing how much you give to others, as well as how much you give to yourself. I think that, we kind of live in a society where everything's very others focused. And if you were someone that's like a parent or a caregiver for anyone else, it can be difficult to take the time to care for yourself, because there's a lot of judgment that kind of is associated with that as a caretaker, you're supposed to be all sacrificing. So if you need to take time away from your child, or time away from your spouse, or whoever you're taking care of, there's this kind of silent judgment about being selfish, and it brings about a lot of guilt. Even if you are not a caretaker, I think, in our system of like work and school, like it's just now, like the conversation has just now gotten to be a lot more prominent around like people needing mental health days, like people needing that time, like when they're sick and not going into the office or going to their job, or going to school. And there's still a lot of judgment around that. Like there's an expectation that like we should all be machines and that we shouldn't need to care for ourselves. So I feel like this can be a really challenging, lesson to learn, like, because it's a lot about advocacy. It's not, to me, it doesn't necessarily feel as much about like learning how to take care of yourself, like how do you feed a group number one, like how much sleep does a group number one need, like what kind of physical care does a group number one need, like do they need to eat breakfast, do they need snacks throughout the day? It's not that kind of self-care. This lesson feels more like being about advocating for your own self-care, like, which is really, I think, difficult because it requires for us to say no to other people, and that's a hard lesson to learn, because again, like we're socialized that like we should sacrifice ourselves, and no is a boundary. And when we operate and, kind of interact with people that are not very boundaried, when we present them with a no, because we need to care for ourselves, sometimes that can be met with irritation or hostility or guilt. And it can feel like choosing ourselves means that like we're failing another person. And that's not a fair judgment of ourselves, right? That like at the end of the day, we are responsible for caring for ourselves. Like it's no one else's responsibility to care for us, which also puts us in the position that it's no one else's responsibility to advocate for what it is that we need, especially when we're adults. So let's look at the clarifier. Okay, Five of Swords. So, and it's in reverse. So the Five of Swords upright, we can see, there's a lot of pain in this card. That we've got, these five swords here in the background, and, this Egyptian god, he's walking away with this other sword, and we just see this person crying. Five of Swords can be a card of drama. And with it in the reverse, like when we see the drama coming, it allows us to prepare, and sometimes prevent this, kind of response, not necessarily response to the drama. Like when we can prepare for the drama, like when we can learn to look at things objectively, or when we have learned how to advocate for ourselves, when we interact with people that make a lot of drama or make controversy or kind of, I don't know, like almost like troublemakers, like instigators, pot stirrers. When we've learned to advocate for ourselves, it's not as detrimental when we run into these people. It's not as devastating, because we can't control what they do. We can't control if people come around and like just kind of try to start petty shit with us. But what we can do is, learn to kind of see it for what it is, instead of maybe giving this person the benefit of the doubt that like, oh no, they didn't mean to do that. We can kind of objectively look and see like, yeah, that person always kind of comes around and like makes this mess or makes some problems, and it really leaves me having to pick up the pieces of myself or having to clean up the mess. Like when we learn to see that person objectively, and we just kind of understand that that is maybe a part of who they are, it helps us to be a little bit more prepared, and kind of understanding that like maybe part of advocating for yourself is that like you don't want to deal with this person, you don't want to be around this person. Maybe you don't have a choice, right? Maybe you work with them, or they're, the parent of one of your children. But even still, like having that objective view of them can allow you to prepare for that interaction, to kind of understand like, okay, they're going to cause this drama. And the way that I can advocate for myself is once I start to see the drama happening, I can let them know like, hey, I actually have another meeting to go to, or, unfortunately, I don't have time to get into this conversation, but just wanted to check and make sure that you're going to pick up our son or daughter at this time. Okay, great. Thanks. I'll talk to you later. So it feels like the more you have learned to advocate for yourself as a form of self-care, the easier it has been to deal with people that used to really kind of just rock your foundations, which is you're really in a place of being more empowered, like being stronger, being more autonomous, which is just a really beautiful thing for kind of a difficult lesson. So let's look at the lessons that you've learned from this kind of soul contract around learning to advocate for yourself. Okay, Wood Monkey, we have choose your battles. And it's in you. Oh, I love that. Especially with this 5 of Swords in reverse. It really kind of resonates with what we talked about, that, oh, I almost dropped that. That you get to choose, how much interaction you have with this person, and that can determine, how you're left feeling, that there may be times that you're like, I'm not here for it. It's also interesting that we have a machete here and an axe, and then we've got these swords here. Yeah, just very interesting symbolism. Sorry, I'm looking at the 21, 2 plus 1 is 3 in numerology, like when you reduce it down. And then we've got, 3, 4, 5, and then we've got a 5 of Swords. Sorry, my brain is doing all the little connections. So choosing your battles, choosing when you do and don't want to engage with this kind of like drama activity, it's just kind of, I don't know, drama, nonsense, pettiness. The other thing with like the monkey in Chinese astrology, like monkey, people born in the year of the monkey are like typically like very kind of quick-witted, like intelligent. So I feel like it didn't take you long to be able to see the reality of this energy. Like, and even when it's like new energy, I think once you started to learn to advocate and care for yourself, like being able to identify this kind of petty drama, like that skill, it happened really quickly for you. I think because you learning to advocate for yourself really kind of opened up your like intuition, so that like you could hear from like that kind of third eye, that internal source. Like it was, once you learn to really care for yourself, like it created this space of kind of love and acceptance. And like it's almost like it allowed a doorway for your intuition to come through, to start to partner with you. Because advocating for yourself created this energy where you essentially like had developed a sense of trust with yourself, like your higher self. You and your higher self developed this sense of trust, because like the you that you were before you learned how to like advocate for yourself and really care for yourself, it's almost like your higher self didn't trust you with you. I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like this has gotten very kind of almost like I want to say esoteric, but that's not the right word. A little bit convoluted, right? Because it's like, as a person, there's only one you, but there's all these energies that are part of you, right? Like you have these kind of connections in the outer realm. Like there's different parts of you. And so now that you have learned to advocate and care for yourself, your higher self says, okay, now you're a safe space that I can put this kind of intuition in and allow you and the intuition to communicate, and I don't have to protect you from, yourself because you've grown and changed. And so it feels like, with this, it's in you, like that intuitive gift, like you've always had it. You just weren't tapped into yourself. It's almost like you didn't see yourself as like a credible source of information or someone that deserved to have anybody listen to them, because that's how the world treated you, right? Because the world was like, oh, group number one doesn't know what they're doing. They don't have anything important to say. We don't have to listen to them. They're not speaking up for themselves. Like, they don't treat themselves very well, so we don't have to treat them well. And so it's like, once you started to advocate for yourself and care for yourself, like it shifts everything. It just shifts everything about your energy and how you operate. And so looking at the time frame for when you're starting to close out this soul contract of learning how to advocate for yourself. Okay, so it says next week. So you're really wrapping this up, that like you're at the tail end of this contract lesson, that and that makes sense because of how you're operating, that like you can see the pettiness, you can see the petty and the drama and the petty people. You choose your battles, like when you can just kind of duck out and not deal with these people. And then you also know when you have to speak up with these people and tell them like, okay, that's enough. It's enough. Tone it down, back off. I'm going to leave, whatever you setting up a boundary looks like. And then you've started to really tap into your intuition, as far as like the guidance for, even like, especially with new people, and I think for the people that you have dealt with for a long time that are kind of like petty drama people, like they always kind of make issues, like you're very tuned into that energy to the point that like they could maybe send you a text message and be like, hey, we have to meet for this thing. And like, you can already intuitively feel that like, they're just looking for someone to pick a fight with. And, I feel like for a long time, like your whole goal was to keep the peace. So you never said no. But now what you do to keep the peace is that you keep your peace, and so like maybe they reach out and they're like, hey, we got to meet and discuss this. And so for you to keep your peace, like you kind of think about, I can feel you got some nasty energy going on. So I think usually, knowing you, it takes about 3 or 4 days to get this out of your system. So what I'll respond in text message to you is to say, yeah, I'm totally down to meet for that. But like this week is crazy. So can we meet next weekend? And if they like huff and puff about it, like that's fine. Like, but also like you've learned how to navigate these people to where like you put up a boundary, but you're not telling them, like, it's almost, and I don't mean any judgment by this, it's almost like you've learned this really nuanced, sneaky way to put your boundaries up with them, because you can't, like this energy doesn't like no. So if you say no, I can't, it like flares up and there's guilt tripping and like all this stuff that like just, it's really hard to deal with because this energy is unaware. This energy does not care about anybody else. Like this energy does not care that this person is like crying and upset, like just not even looking, walking the other way, like no empathy, no compassion, very self-focused. And so like you have learned, you've learned how to navigate this like persona, this archetype, this type of person. And so like, that like saying no doesn't work. But you also know that like you can say yes, and then give a different timeline, right? So if they're like, hey, we got to meet and talk about this. And you're like, that sounds great. I'm free next Tuesday. And it's like Thursday, and maybe they're like, oh, like that's the soonest. You're like, so sorry it is. And that could be an outright lie, because your job is, your priority right now is to protect your peace, and you don't want to deal with them because it's going to carry over into the weekend. I mean, calling you about nonsense, and that they have other people that they can reach out to in the immediate moment. And so then by the time next Tuesday comes, they're not going to remember that you guys were going to meet, and then you just don't have to deal with it. Like that's how kind of locked in your intuition is, where it's like your intuition can see exactly how it's going to play out now, which is phenomenal. Like who doesn't want who doesn't want that, right? When you're dealing with this, it's almost like your intuition is like, let me give you the play by play for how we handle this. Yeah, so this is something that that you're really at the tail end of, which is phenomenal. And I just want to say good job, because I feel like that's a hard lesson. It is. Okay, so now we're going to look at a smaller soul contract that you are ready to release. Okay, we've got Two of Cups in reverse. The Two of Cups upright is these two people, forehead to forehead. They're holding hands. This is very, very tuned in, kind of soulmate, balanced, equal partnership energy. With it in reverse, like what it feels like, this feels like a belief that like, I will never have this. Like this feels like, this small contract feels like a belief around love, like releasing a belief around love that like you'll never be with someone else. You'll never find someone. You're going to be alone forever. Like your person's not out there. And so the clarifier is this Nine of Wands. Okay, so in the upright, this Nine of Wands is, this young girl, and there's a house that looks like a rooster. This is crazy. Sorry. So we have this young girl. There's a house back here. It almost looks like she maybe wants to get on the other side of the fence, but also I'm not sure. Like this fence could be something ominous, or it could be something that's protecting her. And I feel like with this card in reverse, like it just kind of highlights like the lack of clarity, that like we're not really sure like what is going on. There's some confusion, like things don't look the way that they seem, or like you're not able to kind of decipher the situation clearly. And so what it feels like is that there's some kind of like some kind of like something in the past that created this belief system that you were going to be alone forever. So this could have been maybe a relationship that you had, and it kind of went south out of nowhere, and you didn't get any closure, and you don't really understand like what happened. But that rejection, that ghosting, that kind of abandonment, like that is what caused the wounding. So I think the hard part in situations like that is that our go-to, especially if we're someone that has a hard time advocating for ourselves, like our go-to can be, there's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. I'm not okay. I did something wrong. I got rejected because I'm bad, or something's wrong with me. And we take for granted that the person that ghosted us, that left us, that abandoned us, that kind of disappeared, we take for granted that like they make their own choices, and that they aren't sharing, they're not being honest and like truthful and transparent with us about why they made those choices. And so from a logical kind of outside objective perspective of a situation like that, like somebody that's not emotionally attached would say like, well, that person has an issue. Like if you can't have a conversation with another adult about why you don't want to be in a relationship with them, like you need to work on you. But when we're in the middle of the situation and we're confused and we're scared and we're hurt and we just want love and connection, it's very hard to objectively look at that other person as like that, like you you're messed up, like that, like just to leave and not let me know like what I did wrong, or maybe I didn't do anything wrong. Maybe like you're just having a moment, or like you're having a family crisis, or maybe you have legitimate reasons, but you can't communicate them and you just disappear. Like that's it. Like it feels like as you go through this lesson and as you really analyze this belief that like you're always going to be alone, or your person's not out there, you're going to start to see that like the feelings of like like a lot of the negative feelings that came up around the situation that you put onto yourself were actually about that person, and that you're actually better off without people like that. Because I don't know how you can have a long-term healthy relationship if you can't communicate with someone else when you're having a difficult time, right? Like when you think about even just like friendships that you have with people that, maybe you have like a standing, I don't know, Friday night movie date with like your bestie, and you guys always go and see a movie on Friday, and then, they just tell you they don't want to go to the movies anymore, and then like they never talk to you again. Like that, it doesn't make sense. And of course, like we're going to kind of dig in and like ask, like, are you okay? Or like, did I do something wrong? And maybe they're like, I got laid off and I don't have any money and I'm so embarrassed and I'm really ashamed that I lost my job. And, and like those are the times that we support people, right? When we're like, we don't have to go to a movie. Like we can just hang out at my house and watch a movie. Like, or like, let me treat you. Or, you know what I mean? Like those communications that we have in those difficult times, like, make our relationship stronger. Because, like with that example of your friend, like lots of people get laid off. And a lot of times, like, people don't get laid off because they did something wrong. They get laid off because corporations care more about money than people. And like that sucks. Like that hurts to see the reality of, and also like your friend is way more important to you than going to a movie. Like you care about this person. So kind of looking at it in the lens of like friendships, like, because I feel like you're very loved, and people might know that you have this belief that like you believe that like you're never going to meet your person, and it doesn't make sense to them because like they just like you're just like a wonderful, lovely, caring person, and like it doesn't make sense to them that you would believe this, except for like they, like they know about your life, like they know that you've been hurt, and so it's like, okay, well, not everybody's gonna hurt you, or like it almost feels like maybe like a mom or a dad that like maybe you've talked to about this, and I just kind of feel their energy and their they're not emotionally attached to whatever wounding happened, so they're like, to them it's kind of this puzzled look on their face that like do you think that everybody's like that person? Like no, that like don't let that one person like ruin everything, for anybody else that could possibly come along. So that's the kind of small soul contract, this belief, or maybe disbelief that, you could have like love and happiness and partnership and long-term commitment. So let's look at the lesson that you're being asked to learn around this. And it's rest and retreat. Okay. So I think if if you still are struggling with like this kind of, it feels like heartache, heartbreak, like kind of heart wounding, the lesson that you're being encouraged to learn, or the lesson that like is coming in, is that like you deserve time to just like rest. You deserve time to be by yourself, to spoil yourself, to do the things that like make you feel like nourished. There's also this 22 here. 22 is a master number in numerology. And so it feels like this rest and retreat is not just around this heartache or heartbreak. Like this is something that it's almost like a skill set that is going to touch more parts of your life than just, caring for yourself after a breakup. That like you might be learning through this lesson that like when you allow yourself time to rest and kind of get quiet or just enjoy some like peace and quiet, that it shifts a lot of other things in your life as well. The next lesson card is no expectations. Again, 22. What is this magic? Okay, no expectations. So I think with relationships, it's very common that we have expectations, about the things that like we want that we don't want to verbalize. And so I feel like these two lessons are this card is kind of making me see this connection. We also have two big cats here. But in your big soul contract, we talked about advocating for yourself. And a lot of times, like when we have expectations in our relationships, they are non-verbalized, they're unspoken expectations. And so this can create a scenario that like it blocks a lot of things, right? So we have this like jaguar face in front of the door, and the door is locked, and yes, we have the key, but like there's no hand putting the key in the door. And so I feel like the message for this is that like you communicating what it is that you need, or even what it is that you expect, is going to open a lot more doors in relationships for you, because sometimes we can have expectations in our mind that make sense to us, and then when we actually say them out loud, it feels like, oh, like that that doesn't even make any sense. Or looking at it, like if somebody said they needed that from me, I would say, I don't know how to do that for you. And I think sometimes when we, as human beings, like we can kind of live inside of our own minds, and like when we're not talking about or like sharing or even kind of analyzing the things that we think or expect or believe, once we actually do that, even if it's just like journaling it, even if it's like saying it out loud and hearing ourselves saying it, if it's saying it to like a best friend or like someone you trust, like sometimes it sounds kind of like, that's like that's what's going on in my brain. And so just to give like a personal example, like I've been feeling like this pull to like start dating. And if you've watched any of my videos, I'm like, ew, dating, gross. But for some reason, I'm like, well, I mean, it would be nice to like meet new people or cuddle, or I don't know. And so like I was talking to my best friend on FaceTime last night, and I was like talking through it, and it's like I don't even know what I want. So that to me is a sign that like I'm not ready to date. Like until I can figure out like what it is that I want. Like am I looking for someone that just like wants to go out and eat? Am I looking for someone to have like a long-term relationship with? Am I looking for someone for just like a fling? Like am I looking for like a hiking buddy? Like what am I looking for? I don't know. And so, you know, I can feel all day long that like, oh, I'm ready to, I feel like I'm ready to date. And then when I actually like talk about it, it's like, I think my brain is ready. I don't think I actually know what I want. And for me, you know, not everybody's like this, but like when I, you know, I don't know, go out and like want to meet people or like do online dating, which I just don't want to do. And I don't know what it is that I want. It just kind of, it's like, it's a not great experience. You know, because you have other people that don't know what they want, and you have people that absolutely know what they want and you don't, and then that's like unfair to them. So like I say all that, sorry, I bumped the microphone. I say all that to say that like in our heads, like it can make complete sense. Like when we're locked away by ourselves, like what we think in our minds or how we feel can make complete sense. And then once we start to like share that, or even like write it down and reread it or hear ourselves saying it, then it can be like, oh, that's interesting. So, I feel like once again to say that I think once you start to verbalize what you expect from a relationship, that is going to be the key to kind of unlocking the door in how your relationships kind of happen. And I feel like also in healing this wounding around like I'm gonna be alone forever. And so the timeline is in August. Okay, so it feels like this smaller soul contract. It's almost like this is part one and then this is part two, where it's like this big thing of learning to advocate for yourself, and now it's kind of trickling into other parts of your life. And so really like whenever you're watching this, whenever August is, that is the time that I think you're going to start to really feel like this belief isn't holding you back anymore. Like to me, it feels like there's going to be a lot of confidence around like knowing what you want in relationships, and like a lot of confidence around just verbalizing that and not feeling like you're bad or wrong for saying what it is that you want or need in a relationship. And also like when people tell you that they can't provide that. You know, like let's say that you want someone that you want to date somebody that doesn't have kids. And so then you meet somebody online and then they share with you after a couple weeks that they have kids, you know, and they were afraid that you wouldn't want to date them because they have kids, you know, and then you share like, well, I mean, I did say that in the beginning, and you know, that's a big deal breaker for me because of whatever reasons. And it's been great connecting with you, and I'm really sorry it turned out this way, but I think, you know, I don't think that I can change, you know, that I can't change my deal breaker. And, you know, I just wish you the best. And having the strength and confidence to advocate for yourself, but also like walking away without feeling bad for speaking up for what you want, and also like not vilifying that other person. You know, like it feels like there's a lot of compassion here, I think, because this rest and retreat time that you're spending with yourself is teaching you how to be more compassionate with yourself. And that trickles out to being compassionate with others. So then let's look at your guides who are here with you through all of this. So we've got Mary Magdalene, Teacher Awakens. You have something important to share. Follow the inner call. Don't let anything stop you. And we have Deprivation of Healer Guides. Okay, number 34. 3 + 4 is 7. 7 in numerology is like spiritual love. I feel like this very much connects with this energy. It's over the heart chakra. We've got the heart here. So it feels like Mary Magdalene is almost like she's the one that's helping you like overall, but I feel like this healer guide, this deprivation healer guide, is the one that's helping you overcome this limiting belief around love. You know, that like this healer guide is really trying to like come in and heal your heart. And I almost feel like if there are times that you are sleeping, or like when you first wake up, if you feel something like really warm on your like heart space, I feel like that is like this healer guide, like that they're trying to put hands on you to essentially fill up your heart, because there's been this deprivation of love when that person kind of ghosted you, disappeared, left. Like it left this hole in your heart is how it feels. And like this healer guide is just coming in to just kind of like, let me put some extra love in there. Just gonna like, oh, group number 1 is sleeping. Let me just kind of, you know, fill this up while they're sitting still and they're not running around bouncing all over the place. So yeah, I feel like this is just really beautiful. So group number 1, this has been the soul contracts that you are ready to release. So I hope that you enjoyed this reading. If you did, I would love it if you would like and subscribe. I'd also love if you would like to comment if there's anything you want to share. I really enjoy reading you guys' comments. So thank you to those of you that watch and comment. And yeah, and I just want to say thank you for watching this video, whether you have been with me before or if this is a first time for you. Thank you for letting me read your cards, and I will see you next time. Bye. Hello, group number 2. So if you chose this forgiveness card, this is your reading on what soul contracts you are ready to release. So we have a lot of cards here. First, we're going to look at your kind of major soul contract and a clarifier, as well as the lessons from this big soul contract. And then we will look at the same thing for a smaller soul contract. So your primary soul contract is this Page of Wands. Okay, so this is a card of taking action. The pages are messengers. And to me, what this feels like is taking the initiative, like starting something that it almost feels like you have a hard time taking the step. Like you have it feels like you have lots of really good ideas. You know, pages can be like almost like personal assistants, executive assistants, mediums, it very much feels like kind of like that personal assistant, like secretary energy, like very organized, annotates everything, like keeps a great record of stuff, lots of good ideas, knows how to improve things. But for some reason, there's a failure to launch. And so it almost feels like this has to do with how you see yourself. Pages typically are like a younger energy. This could also be like young can translate to like not having as much experience, right? Because a lot of times like the experience we have in things comes from the amount of time that we've invested in them. So if, you know, if someone has mastered a craft, they've probably done it for years and years and years. And if someone is an apprentice, you know, their experience level is lower because they have less time doing it. I feel like you see yourself as an apprentice, and so you have all these good ideas for things. Like you have all these plans, like ideas, like proposals, and they're very intricate, like they're very well thought out, but when it comes time to present them, to launch them, to publish them, like you always second guess yourself and you don't do it. And so it's really you holding yourself back. Let's look at the clarifier. Okay, the Hierophant. The thing that you're not seeing is that the Hierophant is you. We have two, you know, male figures. They're both holding wands. One of them, the Hierophant, is seen as like the wise elder. And then the page is this person that looks really young. And to me, what it feels like is you, this is maybe a little bit blunt, you have an inaccurate view of yourself. You see yourself this way. And the amount of work that you've put into any of the things that you want to launch presents you to the world this way. So it's almost like the skills, talents, organizational tendencies, like this is you. You just can't see it. It's almost like your ego mind wants to be this, and because you're worried that people don't, or because you don't see yourself this way, you think that no one else sees you this way, and so you just don't launch anything. Like you don't present anything, you don't create anything. Yeah, and it just feels like the hard part is like, so this page is looking right at this Hierophant, like, I want to be you. And the only thing blocking you from being this is you launching the thing. So it's like whatever it is that you want to, it could be like posting something on social media, it could be starting a business, it could be, I don't know, like applying for a job, it could be, you know, sending in an article for publication, it could be signing up for a class, like any kind of action that you've been wanting to take, asking someone on a date, like going to that new place by yourself, like starting a workout routine. Like it feels like once you take that first step towards whatever the thing is that you have convinced yourself that you're not good enough to do, you will start to see yourself as this. So the more that you start to implement, the more that you do the things that you're wanting to do instead of letting your brain hold you back, the more you will see yourself as this. And so I feel like that's totally like a catch-22, right? That you want to be the Hierophant more than anything, but you can't be the Hierophant until you start to step towards that. Right? And like we've got the page that's just sitting. I mean, they're both sitting, but you know, this page, like the posturing of this wand is like, okay, I'm ready to get up, but they just don't. And so it's like you're right. I feel like you're just like right on the precipice of like kind of pulling yourself up and taking steps to get out of this little cave that you've been hiding yourself in, and walking outside the cave, and almost like going here and just sitting down and starting to talk to people. It's almost like this is backstage, and then this is like center stage. So the lessons, that you're being asked to learn at this time are Fire Dog, refine your boundaries. I like this fire energy because it correlates with the wands. And Nourish the Shadow. Interesting. So 23 is a number of change. 33 is a master number. So you're going to have to change some things, because really, like, your boundaries on yourself are too closed off. I'm getting like a lot of hermit energy where it's like, nope, I'm going to stay in the house and be a little house goblin. And like, I don't need to go out in the world. And I'm not judging you, because me too. But like, we just don't go out there. We don't go out there, and we just stay in here. And one day we'll go out there and do a thing. But, not yet. It's actually not a good idea to go out there. Is it raining? Yeah, it's probably raining. So we don't have an umbrella. We can't go. So it's almost like you build up the courage, and then like this ego part of you that does not want change is like, oh no. We can't. There's dinosaurs out there. We can't go. We'll get eaten. So it's almost like this nonsensical thing that your brain is coming up with. And that you're being encouraged to redefine those boundaries. And so what this can look like with the ego is to say like, well, we're just going to go do one thing, and then we'll come right back home. Like, we're just going to go do one thing. We're going to go do the one thing and then come back, and so I feel like when we're in the midst of trying to make really big change, it can trigger that ego part of us, like that. Maybe that's the shadow part for you, like the part that maybe you don't want people to see that you're the reason that you haven't done some of these things, because your ego holds you back. And I think that the ego is trying to protect us, but when we give it too much power, because maybe we're not aware of how much influence it has over us, or maybe we just we're waking up to like the different parts of ourselves. When we allow it to be in control, it can really kind of block us. And so it feels like just telling because I'm looking at this card, and it's like, this is a jaguar, right? And this person's just going to dump water on its head. And so what's probably going to happen? It's going to freak out because it's not expecting to get water on its head, and the ego is kind of the same way. Like, if we just force ourselves to do something, then the ego is going to freak out even harder. Like, we can't do that. The dinosaurs are going to get us. And it's like, there's no dinosaurs, right? So then you're just wasting your time arguing with this ego part of yourself, instead of saying, hey, I'm going to pour some water on you. Like, hey, I'm going to do one thing, and then I will come home. And so I think of it as like trying something on, that anytime we want to make a change, like, our ego does not like change. Our ego wants things to be the same because it's predictable, and predictability is safe. And sometimes like that change is getting a haircut, which objectively doesn't seem like a big deal. But like, I think we can all agree, like, when you get a bad haircut, that's really hard. Like, there's not a quick fix for that, because it takes time for your hair to grow. And you can't put the hair back on once it's cut off, and so kind of seeing that, like, the ego sees every change as a potential bad haircut, when it's like, that's not the case. So we can't rely on the ego to give us permission to change, or even be on board with the change. And so that's why, like, my suggestion, if it feels like it resonates for you, is to say, hey, I'm going to do this one thing, and then we'll go back to what we were doing before. And over time, like, as you do that one thing, and it's not the worst thing ever, and no dinosaurs eat you, then it's like your ego kind of calms down a little bit more. But it does, it takes time. I mean, that's what shadow work is. It's these very small practices, kind of consistently. So the timeline for this soul contract to release, it's happening now. Wow. Okay. So you're in the midst of actually like, and maybe this reading is part of it, right? Maybe like maybe you needed to really see that like you already are the Hierophant, and that like you just have to get up out of, out of the cave and walk outside here and share your wisdom and your knowledge with the people that are there. I love that. This is exciting. Nice. So let's look at the small soul contract. Okay, we've got the star. Oh, I love that. Because when we look at these two, a little bit of similarity going on, right? Beard, hair, purple. And then the clarifier is temperance. Okay, so you got a lot of major arcana here. The star is one of the really most like positive, fortunate, like beautiful cards in the tarot. The star is when we realize that like we are the magic, and so I feel like this is a trickle down lesson in a way that like your magic is your ability to like come up with all these things, right? Like these ideas, these plans, these businesses, like whatever they are for you, like you're able to kind of plan out and map out things that like this is how you operate, and you don't realize that like not everybody can do this. Like you don't realize that people pay other people to do this because they can't do it for themselves, or they don't have time, or it's not their strong suit, right? And so I feel like once you start to step into being the Hierophant and like launching the things, doing the one thing, we're going to do one thing and come back, we're going to open a business and come right back home. Or we're going to sign up for that class and come right back home. It's okay, ego, don't freak out. Like once you start to really do that, like you're going to see and you're going to be shown like how magical you are. And like we all have different magic, but I think that there's a part of you that doesn't believe that you have any kind of magic or that you have any like kind of talents and skills, because you assume that everybody operates the way that you do, and you don't realize that like you're unique in the way that you are. And with this clarifier, this temperance card, what it creates in you, like understanding like that you're a really talented, amazing, magical being, it creates a sense of balance in you that like a lot of people, would assume that if you are able to like see and recognize your own magic, that you might maybe get a little arrogant and you're like, oh, I'm star, I'm magical. But instead, like it creates this really beautiful balance in you that like, because there's a part of you, I feel like even these two look alike. There's a part of you that can see your wisdom and your magic, and there's also this other part of you that viscerally remembers for a very long time, like just even moving forward, like what it feels like to be here. And it's not a visceral reminder where you get sucked back in, but it's almost like you are able to constantly keep tabs on where you came from and where you're going from. So it's a very like humble energy to me that I feel like it's this kind of tempered energy is going to be part of, it's almost like a secondary lesson that people kind of pick up from you, that you are teaching people that, when you don't, like when you hold yourself back, you're not able to see how powerful, magical, talented, skilled you are. And so just take that step and like be courageous, do the thing, and be prepared for the way that you see yourself to totally change. Be prepared to have the way that you love and care for yourself totally changed. And I feel like that's a really beautiful lesson, because a lot of times like we can see other people doing things and it's like, oh, I could never do that. That's not me. And so you've gone through this journey of being the person that's like, oh, I could never do that, I wish I could, to, oh, I did it. Oh, wait, this is who I am. Oh, that's why I was drawn to this. I was like attracts like. And that the more I operate in this, the more I see what my magic is, and the more I see that everybody has their own magic, and the more I can see, like, the more humbling the experience is, that all I had to do was take that one step. And so all you have to do, you just have to take that one step, and like, you will experience this too. It's almost like you telling other people that, which I feel like is beautiful. Who doesn't, like, everybody needs that. Everybody needs a little bit of like encouragement and reminder that like they have multitudes inside of them. So the lesson for this smaller soul contract is, Earth Pig, surrender to the moment. This is so sweet. It's like, just enjoy the fruits of your labor, and we have both of these with their eyes closed. So cute. And then just trust. Look at this little guy. My gosh, it's so cute. And little rainbows coming out and this sprouting. Yeah, this is very spiritual, so this is really kind of like a spiritual awakening, an energetic awakening, like, surrender and trust, I feel like, are very, very similar, but we've got all these, like really bright, beautiful colors. This little mole, I was going to say, I can't tell if his eyes are closed, but like, moles are pretty much blind anyway. Like, being underground, like, I can't remember if they just can't see or they don't see, because they're so, like, they're in the dark for so long that like just the light's too bright. But still, like, this kind of closed eye energy, like really kind of deeply trusting, surrendering. It is like a trust fall, right? Closing your eyes and just trusting that the person behind you is going to catch you, because you can't see the actual catching happen. So I love that. This is like just very, I feel like this small lesson is, or the small soul contract is almost like an unfolding, that like, this is the first part, this is the hard part, this is the taking the step, this is the sprout bursting through the ground, to actually start to get the sunrise, to actually start to be able to grow out of the dirt. And from here, this is like a blossoming. Like, this smaller soul contract is just that sprout continuing to grow and like blossom and open, through all the nourishment that's happening. Even like this guy sprouting out of the ground. 23, 32, 33. Okay. And then the timeline for the smaller soul contract is a few weeks. Wow. Okay. So these are kind of happening very closely together, which is lovely, because they're so connected. It's almost like, this kind of feels like a TV series, right? Where it's like, maybe this is the finale of season 1, and then season 2, episode 1 picks right back up, if that makes sense. Like, very connected energy. So then let's look at your guides. Okay, so we have Kuthumi, Cloak of Wisdom. You already know the answer you seek, trust what you know. Yeah, I feel like this very much resonates with like the Hierophant, that like the Hierophant he's the wise elder, and this Kuthumi guy is the Cloak of Wisdom. So trust your own internal knowledge. And then we have teacher guides and goals. Oh, I like that. That's okay. Where do I put this? Let me see. Can I fit her in here? Yes. I love it. Yeah. And I feel like this teacher guide is really, this is very much like Wands energy. Like, maybe she's trying to give you a little kick in the butt to step out from behind the curtain, to take, to keep taking those steps, to like, really like kind of encouraging you, like, hey, just knock those goals down. Just knock them down. You got this. Like, you can do this. You got this. I'm right there with you. We can do it. You can do it. Yeah. Oh, group number 2. This was lovely. So I hope you enjoyed this reading about the soul contracts that you are ready to release and complete. If you enjoyed the reading, I would love it if you would like and subscribe. I also love when you guys leave comments. I enjoy reading your comments. And then I always try to respond to them. they're lovely. If you have been with me before for a video, I just want to say thank you for coming back. If this is your first time, thank you for letting me read cards for you, and I will see you next time. Bye. Hello, group number 3. So if you chose this abundance card, this is your reading. So I have pulled a bunch of cards. So I've got a card for your major soul contract you're releasing, a clarifier about that contract, some cards about like the lesson, a timeline for when release happens, and then the exact same thing for a smaller soul contract. So let's look at your primary or like big soul contract. Okay, 6 of Wands. So this is a card of success, victory, glory, triumph. And the clarifier is the Wheel of Fortune. Okay, so 6 of Wands is a card of really like celebration, like after the successful outcome has happened, like there's this celebrating, you know, this kind of crown, like being crowned in victory. The traditional tarot card has like a person on a horse and they're kind of being paraded through this town and people are cheering for them. So with this Wheel of Fortune, you know, the message is karma and destiny, that the wheel turns when it turns, you know, like when things are a little bit tricky, they're not that way forever. When things are amazing and great, they're also not that way forever. Like things are always shifting, changing, moving. It feels like the major soul contract that you are ready to release is like around like it feels like the kind of messaging, the energy, the feel I'm getting is that like this belief that you just can't hold on to success, or you just can't attain success, or it feels like when is it going to be my time? When do I get to win? When do I get to succeed? And so if you have been dealing with like something difficult that you feel like is like blocking your success, if you have been in a situation that like you feel like you just can't win at it, like with this Wheel of Fortune, like it feels like that is like things are shifting, you're coming out of that. So it almost feels like this isn't the soul contract. Like this is the feelings that are associated with the soul contract. And I feel like maybe the reason that like the soul contract specifically isn't coming through is because it could be so many different things, right? And since this is a general reading, like what are the ways that we can feel like we can't win at something? Relationships, work, life, changing our habits, right? Like there's so many, like success is such a subjective like term, right? What defines success? Like for some people success is like financial, for some people success is, you know, like an internal, like has to do with an internal relationship. So it feels like that like if you have been feeling like you just can't win, you can't succeed, like you can't catch a break, like that you're trying so hard and nothing's working out, like you're coming to an end of that soul contract. So you're closing out that soul contract that is making you feel that way. Let's look at a lesson card. Wait and listen. Okay. And we have like this little sheep with like the water sheep with the infinity symbol over its head. You know, water is connected to emotions, and sheep are very like kind of docile animals. Like they're a herd animal. They just kind of follow the group, and there's safety in numbers. And so what this feels like to me is that like part of this lesson is, or one of the lessons in this soul contract is learning that like you don't have to do it all alone. You know, because the sheep isn't doing anything, it's just sitting next to her. But with the infinity symbol over its head, this is almost like a nod to the magician, and the magician has a direct connection to source. So it's almost like this sheep is like a spirit animal for her, and maybe she knows that it's there and maybe she doesn't, you know. And also the 22 plus 0 reduces to 2. You know, 2 is the number of like us and another person, like, so partnership, support, connection, like intimacy. Yeah, it feels like one of the lessons that you're learning from this soul contract closing out is that you don't have to do things by yourself. That like even when things take time, that there's support, and there are people that want to be with you in the waiting, in the kind of discomfort, like that you have people around you that are happy to just sit next to you while you are in whatever you're in, that like they're not going to try to fix you. They don't need to, like they don't need you to explain things. It's like, hey, if you just need someone to sit with you and watch your favorite TV show while you're dealing with a hard day that is another day that you feel like you just can't win, I'm happy to do that. The next lesson card is immense growth. So we have this, looks like a vulture. Yeah, that this, like you've done a lot of growing in this soul contract, because whatever it is that you've been dealing with, like most people would give up. And so you've got this perseverance and, and like patience also, because with the vulture, like, like vultures typically eat things that are dead, like they don't hunt, maybe like a hawk. So like they just have to wait for something to die or something else to kill something and leave it behind, for them to eat. So it's like this kind of waiting energy, this perseverance energy, I feel like is very strong within you, that you're someone that has a lot of fortitude. And I don't know that you see that about yourself. I think that's just kind of the way that you operate. So like, what else are you going to do? It's almost like, well, this is how I'm built. Like, I don't, like, why would I give up? So it's like, I can't catch a break, but I also can't stop trying, which I feel like is really beautiful. But that is where your growth has come from. This sacred geometry shape, I can't remember what it's called. I want to say it's the Fibonacci sequence, but I don't know if that's right. But this is like, if you want to look into this shape, you can Google like geometric shapes and like spiral. There's something about this shape that like is, I want to say it's connected to like Renaissance art. And I just feel like there's like a really significant piece of art that this is connected to, that like might be supportive, or it might mean something to you if that resonates. And then let's look at the timeline. Okay, so in the summer. So summertime is when you're going to really see this change happen, when you're really going to see this release happen, and you're going to shift, like the wheel's going to turn from you not being able to win to you succeeding in lots of ways, which is lovely, right? Like, who doesn't want a nice, easy, fun summer? Especially when things have been so hard, that like you're just going, like trying, and just head down, shouldering through it. But you're coming to the end of that kind of, it almost feels like the soul contract that you're in, it feels like the energy of like an ox pulling a plow in a field, that they, yes, they're like really strong, but sometimes it's hard work, right? Where it's like this plow is heavy and then the dirt is really soft. So it's just dragging this plow through, and it's not fast, but it doesn't need to be fast. It just has to keep taking these steps and like kind of trudging through. I feel like that's the energy that you've been in for such a long time, and that, like rest, it's important to rest. It's important to rest, and it's important to relax. It's important to kind of wait sometimes, to take a break and know that the wheel is turning, that shift is coming. So let's look at your smaller soul contract. King of Pentacles, reliable, visionary, generous. Okay, and the clarifier is Nine of Wands. Okay, strength, support, boundaries. The Nine of Wands is often seen as like, it's often called the wounded warrior. I think the smaller lesson for you is learning that you don't have to hide yourself away. That, like this King of Pentacles, like being a king really draws a lot of attention. Like there's kings aren't common, but there's this part of you that, feels like some things have happened and being seen is hard. And so wanting to hide away instead of like being comfortable, being seen, being in the limelight. It feels like, both of these have crowns on. And I think that sorry. This Six of Wands, like this big soul contract, like you just want a win, right? Like you just want a little win. Like you just want something small. The success that is the success you're coming into is massive success. So this is like Pentacles are time, energy, money. Kings are highly abundant. They have a very significant sense of autonomy. Like they're comfortable in their power. And I feel like this is this is a smaller soul contract because you've never been here, and like in multiple lifetimes, like not just this one, like because I feel like this success soul contract, like this overcoming soul contract, like this is something that you struggled with for like multiple lifetimes. You might not realize it or know it, but I feel like for at least the last 3 lifetimes, like you've been really struggling to make it through this lesson, and it almost feels karmic. Like it almost feels like something happened, like that maybe you had some kind of like karmic debt from like many lifetimes ago. Maybe someone karmically kind of enslaved you in a way, and like you've been working to release yourself from that through multiple lifetimes. And so it feels like once this thing starts to shift in the summer, like the next kind of smaller soul contract that you have is learning how to be comfortable in the limelight, like learning how to be comfortable with financial abundance, with an abundance of like time, energy, whatever resources, really learning how to see yourself in a new way, because the way you see yourself is like, oh man, I'm battered and bruised and like it has been rough. But the way that everybody else sees you is as this king, right? And so if you think that you're presenting this way, but they treat you this way, it feels very confusing for you. It's not like, why are people being nice to me? But it's like, why are people saying that I'm like working really hard and like I'm exhausted, like I'm falling apart? Like, what are these people seeing that I'm not seeing? And so that's kind of part of the smaller karmic, or it's smaller soul contract, is that like you're learning a new way to see yourself because you've been in this energy for so many lifetimes that like that, I mean, this is a natural transition that like you have to learn how to get out of this energy, this wounded warrior energy, when that contract closes out. Like you're not wounded anymore. You're not a warrior anymore. You're not fighting. There's nothing to battle because that contract is over. And then the lesson card that we have is Earth Dragon, as above, so below. And Quantum Jump. Okay, yeah. Yeah. 5 is a number of change. This Pentacles energy, because this Earth, Pentacles is an Earth energy, but it feels like you're going to learn how to really like kind of ground yourself, in whatever reality that you're in, which I feel like sounds really abstract. But it's going to help you. The lesson is that even when things change and there's upheaval, there needs to be something that we can return to ground ourselves. It's almost like a port in the storm. And so it's like there's this practice that you are going to, like, this small soul contract is going to lead you to discovering what your kind of grounding practice is. And this is something that you'll have as part of like your daily life. For some people, it's meditation or pulling tarot cards or like going for a walk or exercise, or like it's an activity that, like, when everything gets crazy and chaotic and like the world feels like you're in a snow globe that just got shaken up and put back down sideways, it's a practice or a habit or something that you can return to that is like your little safe space inside of you. You know, that like it's the thing that makes you feel like it's going to be okay. I'm here and now. This is who I am, and I'm going to be okay even if it doesn't feel okay. Like, it gives that sort of feeling. And this other lesson of like quantum jump, I feel like this is more an explanation of like what this next soul contract is about. That, you know, it's almost like this soul contract took much longer than it should have or than it needed to, and like that's why I feel like there's some kind of like karmic element to it, right? That like learning how, like, we all go through like lessons or contracts where we have to learn like what our power is. Like we need to go through things to figure out like how hard, like how much adversity can I go through before I learn that I am strong. It's really like that's what this kind of soul contract is, except for this one went on for like far too long. And it feels like, I don't really like to use this word because I feel like it's such a negative connotation, but like somewhere in your karmic lineage, like someone cursed you, and that is what kept you stuck in this karmic cycle, this soul contract of like just having to like trudge through all these lifetimes. And like because you're completing it, or it's been completed, it's complete, like it's completing, like you're going to have a quantum leap in this smaller contract. So it's almost like you'll go from feeling like you've been battling wars for like your whole life to so much ease that it doesn't make sense to you. Like, it is not logical, but it is logical. Like, it's all the, oh, sorry. I don't know if you I don't know if you heard that. That was my stomach. It's not logical in the sense that like to you, because you've been on the inside, like you know and remember what this is like, and for it to shift from this to this, like it doesn't make sense to you, but like it's very much logical, right? That like if this is like financial abundance, like let's say you start a business and you're extremely successful, like you can see documentation that like, okay, this is how I've gotten successful. These are the financial numbers, these are the figures, these are the products. Like there's a logical way that all this has progressed, but like in your brain, you know, your brain is like, this is bananas. Like, what is this? But yeah, this quantum jump, quantum leap, is it's happening because, you know, it's almost like this has been waiting for this to close out. So it's almost like if they had their own energy, it's like if there's two people, it's like an airplane is what I'm seeing, like in like the this person is waiting to get on a flight, but like this flight hasn't landed yet, and they're like, okay, well, this, this arrival departure stuff says that it's supposed to be here like 10 minutes ago. Like, where is it? Because I have to be somewhere. Like, this plane is supposed to take me somewhere, and like, what is happening? So it's almost like the energy of the small soul contract is like, okay, well, now we have to like, once we get on the plane, like we got to hurry and like fly faster to get there, which isn't really how it works, but you get what I'm saying. This smaller soul contract is just like ready to go, to leap, to move forward, because there's a balance that has to be reestablished. Yeah. And that makes sense, because this bigger soul contract, like this isn't how it was supposed to be. Like, this isn't how karma works. Like, and that's why it feels like somebody was messing with something somewhere back in the lineage of your soul. So the timeline card for the small, interesting, a few days. Huh. Okay. So this lesson, like this soul contract, is going to be very, very quick. So it's almost like it's like dominoes. It's going to happen very quickly. Like, like dominoes, that like you're going to start to see that there's this success and change happening. And then it's going to be this very quick recalibration of like shifting from this kind of wounded warrior energy to seeing yourself in this way, which is lovely. So it's almost like, very closely connected. So let's look at your guides. So we've got Lady Venus, downloads and understanding. Truth is being revealed. Deep insights are coming from heaven and the astral realm. Okay. So to me, this card feels like, I think because of, if you're watching this in real time, Venus and Neptune are conjunct right now. So they're essentially like riding in the same car together, going in the same direction. And Neptune affects our dreams. Venus is about like love, value, worth, beauty, abundance. And so it almost feels like you might have some dreams about whatever this kind of karmic situation was, or you might have like some kind of intuitive download that gives you some understanding around like why this took so long, or like what it was connected to, because it feels like there's something historical. And it might just be, you might watch a TV show about something, people that were like persecuted, and like it feels like this knowing to you, where it's like, oh, that was me. And you might already have this, like this might be something that like is part of your lineage that you're aware of, or you might have just always felt it, or you might have had dreams about some things happening, like it's kind of nightmares, about things happening, and then it starts to make sense now. So she's here to kind of just help you with downloads, help you to understand things. I feel like this is really like, it's a very, I don't know, like positive energy connection in a way, because like this eye looks very similar to that eye, right? So it's almost like she's watching over you as you're coming into this new stage. So and I wonder if like as you start to like wait and listen, that's how this connection happens, because her watching over you in this King of Pentacles phase, it doesn't feel like she shows up when you get here. It feels like this is just a natural progression of like, I don't know, it's like, why would she not be part of this, is kind of the feeling I'm having. And then your next card is Opposition, Nature Spirits. So we have this like yin and yang, which almost kind of looks like this Wheel of Fortune card in a way. Let me see if I can fit these all in here. Okay. And so this opposition card, it feels like reflecting back on like where you came from to where you are now, right? And it's almost like these two very oppositional energies where, it's like you're shifting from this wounded warrior into this King of Pentacles, you know, that like when we look at kings and knights and things like that, like kings don't typically go and fight the battles. They don't go and do the work like knights go out and do the work, but you've been doing the work for so long, and it's very like it's very like oppositional, sorry, it's very oppositional energy, but it's all around us in nature, right? We've got day and night, which are oppositional. We have summer and winter, you know, which are oppositional, spring and fall. So understanding that there is a balance to things, and that like all things like shift and change and rotate like the wheel of fortune, and that like this things are coming into balance for you, and these nature spirits are working to balance out that opposition that has been out of balance for so long. So group number 3, this has been your reading about soul contracts that you are ready to release. So if you enjoyed the reading, I would love it if you would like and subscribe. If you feel called to share, I love reading your comments. If this is your first time watching, I just want to say thank you so much. And if this is not your first time and you are a return viewer, thank you as well. I just want to say thank you for letting me read your cards, and I hope you enjoyed the reading. So I will see you later. Bye. Hello, group number 4. So if you chose this friendship card, this is your reading. So I have a lot of cards here. We've got some cards for your guides. I pulled a card for your kind of big soul contract, a clarifier, 2 cards for the lesson, and then a card for the timeline. And then I have all the same cards for the small soul contract. So let's look at your big major soul contract that you are ready to release right now. Ace of Cups. Lovely. The clarifier is justice. Okay. The soul contract lesson, big one that you're closing out, is around imbalances in love and relationships. So Ace of Cups is, you know, this energy of God's source spirit bringing in new love, you know, and this can be love in romantic relationships, friendships, family, just our experience of love, like being in the world, like feeling the love of nature, you know, just feeling like the warm sun on our skin, like the breeze, you know, gently blowing, harmony with other beings. This can also have to do with like emotions, like learning a new way of experiencing emotion, of processing emotion. And then with this justice card, we see her kind of creating this balance between these two things, like the sword of like getting justice, you know, and then the scales of justice in the balance of like what is right and wrong. And that she's balancing between these two things. Even like the black and white kind of that's behind her, like those are kind of oppositions that balance. And it feels like the big soul contract that you're ready to release is around these excuse me, around these really like painful relationships. Like it almost feels like sorry, I say because this is kind of a hard one, but it feels like in this lifetime your soul wanted to experience like emotional pain, not for the whole lifetime, but it feels like in past lives, like love has always been really easy for you, like that people have always loved you, like you found relationships really easily, like relationships have always been really harmonious. And so, or at least in your last life, and so in this life when you came here, it was like you wanted to learn what it's like to have the opposite of that, you know, and like to experience like what it's like to not have harmonious relationships, and like what it's like to heal from heartache, and what it's like to learn how to love and nurture yourself when you can't find that in others. And I feel like like soul contracts like that, like lessons like that, they're hard for us to wrap our brains around, because like, why would I choose that? Like, why would I want to like learn something hard like that? That doesn't sound great at all. But I feel like we do a lot of the same things like consciously in our human life, right? Like if you've ever been on a diet, like why would you choose to withhold the foods that you love just to change the way your body looks, when you could just not, right? But there's more to it than that, right? Because like not everybody goes on a diet or changes their nutrition because they're trying to like lose weight. Some people have to do it for medical reasons, you know, that some people it's like life or death. Some people do it for moral reasons, like people that become vegetarian or vegan. You know, they don't want to contribute to the killing of animals to feed themselves. And so I feel like I'm using those examples to kind of relate that like that's very similar to like what these soul contracts can be. You know, because the earth is a school that our souls come to learn things. And so we can even use college as an analogy that, you know, like if you want to be a marine biologist because like you love ocean animals and like you just want to work in the ocean and save the oceans and like that's your thing, like you just love the ocean so much, but you don't enjoy biochemistry class because it's so, there's so many, it's a lot. But the goal of becoming a marine biologist, like the drive for that, like wanting to have that career is worth the pain of biochemistry 1, 2, and maybe 3. So I feel like that is the same energy that your soul came to this with. Like I want to become a more advanced soul, so I understand that I need to learn how to navigate like heartache and difficult relationships, and what it's like to not be loved and adored so easily, or what it's like to experience struggles in connecting with other human beings. Yeah, so this is the big soul contract that you're ready to release. So the first lesson card is Powerful Beginnings in Progress. Lovely. And then we have See Beyond the Past, 23. So 51, this is 6. 6 in numerology is about like love, like reciprocity, human love. And it can be like friendships, you know, like those friends that like, I don't know, that like know you're having a really hard day, so they send you an Uber Eats care package, you know, or you know, the friend that I don't know, knows that you love this group that's coming to town and they buy tickets to go take you even though they don't like that kind of music. Like it's just this very kind of nurturing, sweet love. And then See Beyond the Past, 23. 2 plus 3 is 5, which is the number of change. So the lesson for this soul contract is that like you're learning how to see beyond the past, because there's been a lot of like I would say the majority of your relationships, friendships, intimate connections, have had a lot of wounding in them, that it's been really kind of difficult and painful. But like you're learning how to see beyond like the things that happened, and you're learning that like every connection it's a clean slate. Like every new connection, every new interaction is a clean slate, and that it almost feels like you're learning how to value the really small connections that are positive. I think that like a lot of the deep relationships that you have been really kind of painful and wounding. So this can be like family relationships, this can be like long-term friendships, like really committed relationships. And so you're learning that like not every interaction that is long term is going to be painful, but you're also learning to find the joy in like having a 4-minute conversation with somebody in the grocery store, or like having just a really lovely, pleasant interaction with another human being that doesn't know you, and they don't owe you their kindness, they don't owe you their time, but they are kind and they're generous with their time and their energy, just for no reason. And I feel like that's really kind of this recalibration of how you see human connection in relationships, which is such a beautiful lesson to learn, you know, to be able to see that like just because things have been really painful and hard doesn't mean that you have to believe that it will always be that way, because it won't. The timeline card is in April. So if you are watching this in real time, this is this month. Today's the 1st. So over the course of the next month, it looks like you're releasing this contract. You're probably doing it right now. You're probably working through it right now, which is really lovely and beautiful, because we have like springtime, like new beginnings, blooming, lovely. This card is connected to like the story of the ugly duckling. So that might resonate for you. Like you might have felt like you were an ugly duckling and you're starting to like blossom and see that you're actually a beautiful swan. And that could be something that comes out of this too, that like you're learning to see yourself in a different way. That like the difficulties in connection had nothing to do with like something being wrong with you, right? That it was like these were really kind of difficult growing pains that led you to being able to see yourself in an accurate way and being able to see like your own beauty, like the beauty that you have in your heart that you've never lost. So your small soul contract that you're ready to release is this 6 of Wands, which is a card of success. We've got this guy, he's very triumphant. And the clarifier is the Emperor. Okay. So this feels like the smaller soul contract that you're ready to release is worrying about what people that you see as authority figures or that you see as like important people like think of you. And so with this 6 of Wands, like this person is celebrating. We don't know what they're celebrating. Like they got a trophy and like they have this little wreath or kind of head dress, but they're, you know, they're cheering and they're proud of themselves. Like they're looking up, you know, towards maybe God's source spirit, and, you know, it just feels like the energy of this feels like I worked so hard to get this done. Like, I can't believe I did it. And like, just really, it feels, even though 6 of Wands doesn't represent self-love, this feels like a really huge moment of self-love. Like being able to accurately see what they did to succeed, like being able to have this like really accurate, balanced viewpoint of themselves and understanding like how much blood, sweat, and tears went into getting to the point that they could participate in this, and then even to like win it, right? Because the goal is always to win it, but getting to the point where like they can participate in this thing, like this is, it feels like this is something that like this is like a long-term goal, right? Like this feels like going to college to get your master's, but you're working full-time, you know, that like it's hard, and there are lots of people that don't do it, and there are lots of times that you could give up but you didn't, and now you're walking across the stage. And having this person, the Emperor, is like a position of authority, but we can see like they're very it's almost like this disapproving, right? Like the arms are crossed over the body. They're holding this kind of scepter thing and a crystal ball, and just this very intentional stare. Like it almost feels like the smaller soul contract you're ready to release is receiving the judgment of others. Because like when we look at these two cards, he's looking up. He's not paying attention to him, right? Like this guy could be in the audience, like disapproving of the fact that he won, because like we're always being judged. But I feel like this is someone in your life. Like these are some ones in your life. This could be like a boss. It could be a parent. It could be like a grandparent. Somebody that's in like a position of authority, like someone that doesn't feel out of place judging the things that you do. They don't say anything, but they don't need to, because the look of judgment is enough that makes people, it's enough to make people change their own behavior, and you're breaking out of that. You know, that's the smaller soul contract that you're releasing. Like you're releasing like that judgment having any effect on you. And your first lesson card is this wood rabbit, which is follow your curiosity, which is adorable. And the next lesson card is opportunity with this little woodpecker. Okay. So, I love that we have both of these little, the colors are very similar, and like both these little guys are looking up, right? Well, big guy and little guy. And so to me, it feels like this, kind of deeper spiritual connection that's happening, but also like allowing ourselves to be curious, I feel like is kind of a way that like we can allow ourselves to play as adults. You know, that like play is something that's really important, but as adults, like we don't often get to play because we have to work and do things, and you know, we have goals and difficult relationships to deal with and like healing to do. But I feel like it's almost like this curiosity is internal and spiritual, right? That like you're learning to follow the curiosity, like what kind of passions or interests do you have? And then also kind of having this curiosity around spirituality and like really getting curious, like, well, how do I develop this relationship with God's source spirit? And like, how do I connect with you more? And like just you're having experiences where you learn to do that. And that can be as simple as like just acknowledging, like looking to the sky, like in gratitude for things. That could be journaling, meditation, could be just talking to God when you're driving your car. And it feels like maybe there's people in your family that don't jive with spirituality. You know, they that might be what this is around. And I feel like this opportunity card, you're being given the opportunity to break free from this. Because it's always a choice, right? Like you can decide that like having the approval of someone that is in a position of power, authority, respect in your life is much more important than being curious and connecting with God's source spirit. You can also decide that it's too uncomfortable to not appease this person, but like you're getting the opportunity to break away from this. Feels like bondage. Like it feels like this person's holding you back. And I wonder if this person is a carryover from this. So it might be like kind of tying up loose ends of seeing, you know, how like learning how to navigate these difficult relationships and how to release some of them even. Yeah. And then the timing card is very soon. Okay. So I feel like this is going to happen very soon after this happens. And considering that this is in April, both of these things could be happening very soon, like early on in the month, or they can be happening within like this could be happening like immediately after this, almost to the point where it feels like one big lesson, which is kind of how like group 3 was, where it felt like a domino effect. Like this was the first domino getting knocked over, and then it knocks over all these. So it almost feels like these are it's almost like the appetizer and then the main course, even though this is like the major lesson. So it could be like main course and then dessert or something like that. But they like, you're not going to have the main course and then like 4 days later have dessert, like they're very closely connected. And then finally we have the cards for your guides. So Master Buddha, increased awareness, deep connection, trust your inner voice. Okay, so we talked about this spiritual connection. So you might be drawn to Buddhism. You might just be drawn to some of like the higher masters, like spirit masters. You might be drawn to like Buddhist practices. But either way, like your awareness is increasing, your intuition is increasing. So you're just being encouraged to, connect with yourself and like trust that inner voice. As you're kind of going through these new beginnings. And then we have higher self, and they're inviting you to pause. Okay. So I like that these two kind of, the imagery is very similar. So I feel like if you're having a little bit of difficulty in kind of any moment when you're dealing with some of this stuff, like if like some of the relationship stuff is too hard, like pause, take a breath, spend some quiet time by yourself, like kind of readjust, recalibrate, and really to do that as much as you need, and kind of reconnect to your higher self. Like they're always there with you. And it's like when you pause, like I pause, it's like, I feel like they mirror your energy, which sounds redundant because like your higher self is like a part of you, but like sometimes we are not on the same page as our higher self. Like we don't resonate the same frequency as our higher self. But I feel like the two of you are really like, your higher self is very much trying to like sync with you, because you're getting closer and closer. Like as you close out this, major soul contract around like relationships and like ending that lesson around like relationship difficulties, and like you start to come into like your spiritual connection and your success, and like seeing that you were never the problem, like seeing that you are lovable and valuable and you matter and you're worthy. Like your higher self is just like drawing closer and closer to you because they're trying to it's like this is the meeting point, where it's like once you are starting to like see your value and see your worth and see that you are amazing and lovable, then that's the time that like it's almost like that's the event that triggers you and your higher self to like meet for lunch. Like you're driving towards the same place, you're driving to the same coffee shop, and then you finally meet up, which is really, it's just lovely. So group number 4, this has been your reading. So if you enjoyed it, I would love it if you would like and subscribe. If you would like to leave a comment, if you feel like sharing, I would enjoy that as well. I always like to read you guys' comments and also comment back. I feel like community is really important, so it's nice to be able to connect with internet friends that way. If you are new to my channel, if this is the first reading that you've seen with me, I just want to say thank you so much for letting me read cards for you. If this is not your first video and you have come back, I want to say thank you as well for returning, and thank you for letting me read your cards too. So group number 4, I hope you enjoyed this reading, and I will see you next time. Bye.